Why couldn't the magicians make lice? We're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about more in this read of Exodus. This is part of our yearly reading. Well, not our yearly. This year we're reading the law. I'm Daniel Kaplan. I'm here with my father, Dr. Kaplan, and this is Wake Up to the Bible. Today we're going to be reading Exodus 7 through 18, and I'll be reading from the Robert Alter translation, and then we'll discuss what we've read.
So my son is saying that they were lousy magicians.
Lousy lice magicians.
There you go. All right.
And the frogs, and the frogs will turn away from you and from your house and from your servants and from your people. Only in the Nile they will remain. And Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh's presence, and Moses cried out to the Lord concerning the frogs that he had put upon Pharaoh. And the Lord did according to Moses' words, and the frogs died out of the houses and out of the courtyards and out of the fields. And they piled them up heap upon heap, and the land stank. And Pharaoh saw that there was relief, and he hardened his heart, and did not heed them, just as the Lord had spoken. And the Lord said to Moses, say to Aaron, stretch out your hand, and strike the dust of the land, and there will be lice in all the land of Egypt. And thus they did. And Aaron stretched out his hand with his staff, and struck the dust of the land, and there were lice in man and in beast. All the dust of the land became lice in the land of Egypt. And thus the soothsayers of Egypt did with their spells to take out the lice, but they were unable. And the lice were in man and in beast. And the soothsayer said to Pharaoh, God's finger it is! And Pharaoh's heart toughened, and he did not heed them, just as the Lord had spoken. I think I'm still going. Let's see. Yep. And the Lord said to Moses, rise early in the morning and station yourself before Pharaoh. Look, he will be going out to the water, and say to him, thus said the Lord, send off my people that they may worship me. For if you do not send off my people, I am about to send against you and against your servants and against your people and against your houses the horde. And the houses of Egypt will be filled with the horde, and the soil too on which they stand. But I shall set apart on that day the land of Goshen upon which my people stand, so that no horde will be there, that you may know that I am the Lord in the midst of the land. All right, that's where I have the end of that section. So, we have the third plague, the plague of lice. And my dad was talking about this yesterday, about Egyptian culture and the fact that they were rather obsessed with hair and obsessed with shaving and all of that. And it was particularly a priestly thing to do from what I understand. I'm not even sure to the extent they shaved, but I thought it was pretty extensive. And obviously one thing that would prevent is lice, because, that's one way you have problems with lice, but it's an attack on that concept itself. It obviously would be you would think that a culture that is so concerned with cleanliness, particularly in the hair, to have something that is associated with that be an affliction would be not only painful, but also very, what you want to call it, a direct attack on their culture. Thoughts?
Well, I was going to look up the term here. We used to use the term arov for the for the swarms. Yeah, okay.
For the what he calls horde, you mean?
He says horde.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good translation. Horde. Yeah. The assumption of most is that swarms of insects of some sort. Flies. Yeah. The flies is not. It says horde or mixture,
Yeah.
in the Hebrew. But for some reason, the Jewish tradition connected this with various kinds of wild beasts. Mm-hmm. It's interesting that that is the Jewish tradition, but it seems more reasonable that it's swarms of insects.
Yeah. The reason why Robert Alter did not use swarm is because he did not want to use the same verbiage as swarm as Exodus 1 and Exodus 7. He wanted to use a different word so that it would not be mixed.
It has to. The word itself has to do with mixing.
That's what he says. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So different types of things, maybe.
Yeah. This is what he says, though. Some medieval Hebrew commentators imagined this as a mingling of sundry beasts of prey, but this seems unlikely because, as verse 27 makes clear, the Arov has infested the Egyptians rather than torn them limb from limb, and then one remained probably suggests minuscule constituents of the horde. A plague of maddening, noxious insects makes much better pair with the preceding plague.
Yeah, I would concur there.
Yeah, but it does seem perhaps that it is a mixed. I'm not sure if a swarm of flies is necessarily correct either. It could be that you are talking about some sort of mix of things. And again, this would seem like I know, like the beetle god. The beetle was like a big thing, right? So it could be that it wasn't necessarily just flies; it was all kinds of things. And obviously, a swarm of beetles. If you've ever seen the new Mummy movies, that's pretty horrific as a concept. And some beetles, I believe, can pretty affect you badly. I mean, obviously, like millipedes and stuff like that. There's a lot of poisonous stuff and things that'll bite you and things like that.
And this is where I think he makes...
Although I think the Septuagint says fly. I think Septuagint says dog fly or something like that.
Well, I've seen that term used by commentators. Maybe that's where
dog fly?
Yeah, maybe that's...
Yeah, I think it's in the Septuagint that it says dogfly. And some people say, well, the Egyptians really loved their dogs, and the fact that something that was like a tick that could come from the dogs and affect them would be something. So something I think that's a lot better than the wild animal idea.
And here the distinction is made with Goshen.
Yes.
And
right. So at this point, he has the land of Goshen, and this is the first time we've even had that really mentioned, I believe,
as a protected place. Yeah,
it was a segregated place like that, right? I think so.
Well, they were given Goshen when they first came down there.
Well, right. But this is the first time in Exodus where it's talked about. Yeah, because back in Genesis it said that. Yeah. Now, getting to the segregation, one of the reasons why they said that, right, was because they didn't like shepherds, right?
Yeah.
And what you'll notice is that what God uses against them is the rod of a shepherd, right?
That's
so it's really sticking to them because whatever their cultural prejudice was against shepherds, it's the same tools being used to get them. So it's like he's really turning the screws, as it were,
The verse after, I will make a difference between my people and your people. Tomorrow this sign shall be.
Uh-huh.
How does he translate the next passage?
Where is that?
It says, it's going to be different numeration.
I shall set a ransom between my people and your people tomorrow. We haven't read that yet.
Oh, okay. I see. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Right.
Anyway, so the way we started this was the question of the lice. It seems like they at this point, the third plague is where the magicians reach that brick wall. And I think it is interesting that it is the third plague that they cannot replicate. Well, it's the third. It's the fourth sign they can't. Right? There were three signs they could, but they cannot go any further. They could do the snake. They could do the blood. They could do the frogs. They cannot mess with this. At this point, after they've seen three, they say God is God. So again, you have that sign of three, which I like. I like mathematically. I like patterns like that. But it is interesting because at this point, the soothsayers say God's finger it is, right? So what exactly happened to these people? Because at this point, you have some of his own religious type figures that are declaring that this is some supernatural influence. So I just find that interesting that, they're being reached in some way. I don't know what that exactly means, but it is interesting.
Well, they would be the ones that would really know because
right.
they were trying to do these things. And,
right.
So.
Yeah, they would know that this is either they were being deceptive, right? And they were like, well, obviously he's not just an illusionist because we can't do this. Or let's say they were under some sort of demonic influence or something. They're like, okay, well, this is beyond what we can do either.
Right, yeah.
So at this point, they reached that threshold. Now, what this doesn't exactly say, I'm not going to say that they got far enough because, as it says, isn't it in James where even the demons know who God is, right?
Right.
Right. So, I mean, acknowledging that God is part of the picture, but obviously you need more than that. But who knows? It could be like I said in the last episode. It could be that maybe some of these people were reached and they left with them because they figured that they were in a false religion and they got converted. I don't know. It's possible. You have it to be this early adopter and to at least accepting God's power. Who knows where they ended up at the end of the story? Maybe I'm just an optimist.
No, yeah, I just probably figured for the time being, we've got to concede. I don't know.
You're not quite that optimistic. You never know. I have faith. I have faith in the power of God. Well, he keeps saying though, he's like that everyone may know that I'm whatever. So I think some people were reached, right? I don't think it was just a lost cause.
But even when you're reached, it doesn't mean you're gonna submit.
That's true. I mean, you did have to leave Egypt, which is a big thing to do.
Yeah, right.
I do think some people did, though. But again, that might just be handcanon. But I'd like to think some people did.
Well, there was possibly a princess that went along with the Israelites who had the name Bithia. So, that's something they'll make sure the princess that adopted Moses. That's unlikely. I think
she would have been dead probably because he's 80 at this point.
Yeah. Well, that may have been a Jewish tradition that Bithia was the one that adopted him.
I mean, I suppose it's possible that she adopted him at like 20 and that she'd be 100, but I mean, I don't think so.
No, I don't think she left, but I'm just saying.
But you said there was an Egyptian princess that left with them.
Well, I shouldn't say that. She may or may not have left. Okay. It just mentions that somebody named Mered, I think he was of the tribe of Judah, but anyway, an Israelite named Mered married an Egyptian princess. And then they gave her what I think is a Hebrew name, Bithia. Mm-hmm. I don't think that was necessarily her Egyptian name.
Interesting.
But whether she was part of the Exodus generation or not, I don't know for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But if she was, then she would have followed Daniel's concept that she would have joined the Israelites in effect.
I mean, the other thing, too, is that I can't imagine Moses didn't have any connections with anybody either. So you would have thought that he would have had some defectors just because of that. Because, I mean, he left when he was 40, but okay, so you're like a 18-year-old, and then he comes back when you're
right.
58. Like, it's possible.
That's a good point.
That he would have had a reputation with you, and they're like, yeah, you know what, this is ridiculous. And, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. These are just such, I don't know, to me it's interesting because they're just such spectacular signs. It's hard to imagine it would not having an impact. It's just hard to imagine. But, it's possible, too. Obviously, God can choose whether or not stuff has an impact or not. It could be that, their minds were obfuscated to that sort of stuff.
So it was the third plague that they couldn't duplicate.
The third plague, the third plague, but the fourth sign.
Okay. Now, I wanted to look at this translation where it talks about thick. I'm going to make a distinction between okay. Oh, grievous is how they translate it here. Let me see the term.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay, the word is heavy in the Hebrew. I would like to see how the Robert Alter translates that term.
Which one?
Where he says, I'm going to bring a grievous swarm of flies, or a grievous horde, or a heavy horde.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, how he translates that.
If you do not send off my people.
No, he goes, and I will put a division between my people and your people, and tomorrow shall this sign be. It's a short verse, and then right after it.
Wait, hold on.
Then right.
I'm not sure if we got to that.
No, we haven't. I thought we just read it. Maybe not.
No, we have not gotten to that. That'll be tomorrow. And it's heavy, just so you know.
Okay, he says heavy.
He says heavy. Heavy horde.
Okay, fair enough.
But we haven't gotten to that yet.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So we'll talk about the heavy horde tomorrow. But in the meantime, anything else you want to discuss about lice or ticks or whatever it is these things were?
No.
All right. Well, that's good because I don't particularly like lice. So we're going to keep moving on. If you haven't, please like, subscribe, hit the bell. We'll see you tomorrow.